What's up, everybody? It is Izzy. I know it's been a bit of a break since the last Q&A. I got a bit sick and then just kind of was feeling a little burnt out on them. But we are back in action here, so without any further ado, let's get into a brand new Q&A. What is your favorite overall machine or exercise to have fun? Personally, I like all the exercises in my program. If you have exercises in your program that you don't like, I would just not do them. And this is for hypertrophy, obviously. If you're a power lifter, you can't really take out squat, bench, deadlift. But you are never going to get optimal results from doing a bunch of shit that you hate and aren't excited to do. Honestly, I would potentially take an exercise out, even if it's progressing well and I'm doing well on it, if I dislike it and I'm not excited to do it. That said, to, I guess, actually answer your question, just know that I really don't think in this way, and it's not necessarily my favorite, I have a favorite flavor of ice cream, but it would probably be squat, bench, and deadlift variations because that's where I can lift the most weight. And for me, that's always fun. How has lower body training felt since being able to use your other arm again? So I think as of literally today, I have zero restrictions with that arm as far as lower body training is concerned. I can pretty much brace without discomfort. It's still better for me to have a slight bend in my arm versus having my arm fully straight. But I tried leg press calves today, which requires me to brace with both arms, and that went fine. So I think I'm basically back to normal lower body training besides deadlifts. Is calf size / growth more genetic than other muscles? I actually think that's two separate questions. I think calf size is potentially more genetic than other muscles, primarily because when some people get heavy, they get a lot of calf hypertrophy just from walking around while being heavy. So I've been up as high as 270 pounds, and my calves do not grow just from walking around at 270 pounds. But a lot of people's will. As far as calf growth being more genetic, no, I don't believe that. I believe the reason that most people get zero calf results is because they do a few half-hearted sets of calves at the end of their workouts, and above all else, they bounce. You need to get into the deep stretch position if you want any calf results at all. My gym does not allow chalk. What should I do? I think a lot of you are just so afraid to break rules, and I find it kind of hilarious. I've trained at a lot of commercial gyms that quote unquote don't allow chalk. I just use it anyway. And I clean up after myself, and I make sure I'm not a huge douchebag that leaves a pile of fucking white powder in my wake. But if you're just one of those people that gets too anxious and too stressed out about breaking rules, try liquid chalk. It makes no mess at all. Is it best for hypertrophy if I can increase my loads the fastest without using sets of less than 5 reps? Sets of less than 5 reps aren't worthless for hypertrophy, right? So every set that's taken to failure has approximately 4 to 6 reps. Some people say the number is 5, it's 5, but I think it probably does vary depending on the movement, strength curve, lots of other factors. So if you do a set of 4, that's still 4 effective reps. If you do a set of 3, it's still 3 effective reps. It's just going to be less efficient than sets that have a little bit more reps. Now, that said, I want to be careful of promoting the idea that you should just focus on increasing your loads as fast as possible, because when ex-strength athletes hear that, they take lifts that should be about building muscle and they make them performance lifts. And what you get is somebody who is doing a lateral raise with tons of momentum. They start using other muscle groups. So with good technique, increasing your loads the fastest is best for hypertrophy. Why do I get wrist and elbow discomfort from doing chin-ups, aka pull-ups with a supinated grip? The reason for that, and it's just welcome to the world of getting bigger, is that you have lost some mobility. Probably, most likely, you have lost a little bit of your supination ability because the muscles and things in your forearm get a little bit tight and you can just no longer turn your hand as much. I can't do them either, man. So it's just part of the game. It's a mobility deficit. I cannot do the seated abductor or adductor machines without pain. Do you have any advice? No. Guys, I cannot help you with most injury things over the internet unless it's some super common thing that happens to a lot of people, like the guy that just asked about wrist and elbow discomfort on supinated chin-ups. I'm not going to be able to give you specific advice. It's really uncommon to get back pain on an abductor or adductor machine since they don't even load your spine. So you can try to work around it by potentially leaning back more or leaning forward more. You could even try rounding your spine and seeing if that helps. But if it doesn't help, then at the end of the day, don't do movements or machines that hurt you. If you want to try to come up with a problem to whatever the issue is, you need to get the issue diagnosed. Go to a competent physical therapist who knows and understands lifting and see if they can help you. But again, beyond that, just don't do things that hurt. To have a complete physique, you hardly need the adductor or abductor machine. So just don't use them. Is it bad to have your A and B sessions identical to your C and D sessions on a full body split? Well, if your A and B sessions are identical to your C and D sessions, you don't have C and D sessions. I personally don't even rotate things unless I need to. So a better question to ask yourself, rather than is it quote unquote bad, is why are you rotating things in the first place? Do you know why? Do you have a specific reason why? Are you doing that for a reason that keeps you progressing, or are you just doing that because you're told you're supposed to? Thoughts on push, pull, off, legs, off, repeat, split? These are the worst questions, man. I mean, that's Jordan Peters' split. Everybody knows realistically that Jordan Peters is the one that pioneered that split, and most of the people that are using it got it from him. But here's the big problem. The only reason that Jordan Peters uses that split is because he deadlifts on his pull days and because he's brutally strong, which 99% of the people trying to copy Jordan are not. In fact, the vast majority of the people trying to copy Jordan and use that split are small enough and weak enough that they should still be on full body programming. If I can effectively do full body programming at over 220, 230, 240 pounds at 5'6", 5'7", the vast majority of you should still be able to recover on full body splits as well. So you're just using something that's more advanced because you think it's sexy and cool, not because it's what's optimal for your current situation. What is the name and brand of the little yellow ball grip attachment that you use? It is called Fit Grip. You can find that on Amazon if they're not sold out. Thoughts on creating a do-it-yourself seatbelt for dips? I have no thoughts on that, but you can definitely look at Zachary Lloyd's profile. He made a full tutorial on how to do this. I believe you can get all the parts from Home Depot for less than $20, but I'll link to him. Just click on his profile and you'll be able to find it. What are the determining factors between choosing between an upper-lower and a push-pull leg split? Well, first of all, why are those the only two options? What about a body part split? What about full body split? Why are those the only two options that you're considering? In reality, the number one determining factor for choosing a split is logistical for most people. They have to train on certain days of the week, and they only have a certain amount of time that they can train. So they can't do, for example, a full body split with 11 exercises that takes 3.5 hours because they only have 1.5 or 2 hours per day to train in the gym. They can't do an asynchronous every other day split because they have to train on specific days. So that's the real number one consideration. But in optimal land, the only thing that really matters is how often you can set PRs on a given muscle group. If you can set a PR every 3 days, you should be training that muscle every 3 days. If you can set a PR every 4 days, you should be training that muscle every 4 days. If you can set a PR every 2 days, you should train it every 2 days. So on and so forth. If an exercise has progressed well into a deficit but has begun to stall, can switching to a bulk fix the issue? Well, the answer is technically yes, it could fix the issue, but you should not be basing your nutritional periodization on whether or not one exercise is stalled or not. Now, if every exercise in your program is beginning to stall and you're also lean enough to facilitate a bulk, then yes, that could be a great time to end your cut and transition into a surplus. But you really should not be transitioning into a surplus just because, for example, your deadlifts are stalled. That's not wise. Why do I progress for longer and progress faster when I rotate exercises? So most people won't actually progress faster when they rotate exercises. They progress longer because let's say you're rotating 3 exercises through one slot. Now you're progressing at 1/3 of the rate. So the progression is stretched out over a much longer period of time. But if you are progressing faster, it's typically because the exercises that you're rotating are creating a better SFR. A good example of this could be something like deadlifts and leg curls. If you train legs twice a week, maybe you deadlift once, but you don't deadlift twice because probably your lower back wouldn't be able to handle that, even though your hamstrings can handle that. So by using leg curls and deadlifts, you can train hamstrings twice a week, get a better hypertrophic stimulus, and improve the stimulus to fatigue ratio. The same type of thing would occur with like flat bench versus incline and many other examples you can come up with. What role does overreaching play in hypertrophy training? Zero, none whatsoever. In hypertrophy training, there's a concept called junk volume, and it basically works like this. There is a hard limit for the productive volume that you can do in a given session, and when you go over that, it is actually causing negligible or even negative impacts to the amount of hypertrophy that you get. So there's absolutely no point in passing that limit intentionally to overreach. There is zero role for overreaching in hypertrophy training. What is a good rate of progression? 5 pounds every 3 to 4 weeks? Well, if you're adding 5 pounds to a lateral raise and you're using like 25-pound dumbbells and you go to the 30s, that's an amazing rate of progress. If you're a 600-pound deadlifter and you're adding 5 pounds every 4 weeks, that's pretty much trash. And I'm not talking about like averaging it out at the end of the year. I'm talking about if you're in the middle of a training cycle and you're only getting 5 pounds every 4 weeks, to me, that's unacceptable. So the metric that I use for acceptable rates of progression is the 1% rule, which I made an entire YouTube video about, and I'll link it here. But basically, you should be able to add 1% in load every time you do the exercise, which is realistically based on a once per week rate. If you're doing it way more than that, you might have to lower that rate. So for a 200-pound lift, that's 2 pounds a week. For a 500-pound lift, it's 5 pounds a week. And when you can no longer match that rate of progression, look at making programmatic adjustments or even potentially rotating the exercise out. Alrighty, folks, that is it for today's Q&A. So as always, if you enjoy the Q&As, please like the video. If you like the video, it helps with the algorithms. If you would like to work with me directly, shoot me an email for coaching, or you can just DM me on Instagram for fastest response. If you'd like to support the Q&A through Patreon, you can find a link to that in the description box, as well as links to my ebooks. So until next time, folks, which will be tomorrow, I'll see you then.